This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Tell yourself over and over again, if you make your decision based on information you got and your full heart, you cannot go wrong.
Welcome to the Parent Footprint Podcast with Dr. Dan. I am your host, Dr. Dan. And let me tell you a little bit about our mission at Parent Footprint. Our mission is to make the world a more loving and compassionate place, one parent and one child at a time. We believe the key to raising happy, healthy, and engaged kids is for us parents to seek the same in our own lives: happiness, health, engagement, and of course, awareness. We believe that awareness is the foundation of your vision of successful parenting, and with increased awareness and intention, we can be purposeful about leaving a healthy footprint on our children. Today's show is so in line with health and intention. Today's show is called The Wonder Weeks, a stress-free guide to your baby's behavior. And we're talking to our guest, Xaviera Plas. Xaviera is the mother of three and the CEO of the Wonder Weeks. They have a mission to give parents the tools they need in order to fully understand their baby's mental and emotional development. Xaviera is the daughters of Drs. Frans Plooij and Dr. Hetty van der Rijt, the founding authors of the Wonder Weeks. And Xaviera has just significantly revised and modernized the 6th edition of this book, which was released yesterday and is already on Amazon, a #1 bestseller. This award-winning book offers a refreshing new paradigm for parenting, one in which fussy phases can be viewed positively. She's also recently launched a best-selling app so parents can keep track of the 10 magical leaps that their babies make on a personalized schedule. She's a writer, a columnist, a popular speaker, and she's in 24/7 contact with parents around the globe. She's also a trusted member of the Lumi by Pampers Expert Advisory Panel. And she is joining us, living with her husband and children from the Netherlands. Xaviera, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What an introduction.
So yes, expanding upon this your history, with this book that you have now, this legacy with your parents that now you have taken to the next level. So tell us about, just give us a backstory on this new development.
Well, the part on which we describe how the mental development goes, that doesn't change. It will just change by evolution. So we won't live to see that. But the way we parents want to have information now is completely different than before. I think we live in an era in which parents are in some way much more, I can't say engaged, but they want to play a much more interactive role. While before we'd go to the doctor and just say, the doctor said that, we now want to actually really know that we're making that decision also with our hearts and our intuition. And I think that's what we did with this book and this revised edition. We made it so clear that parents can actually, so we give them the information they need, and then they can do and make their own decisions based on what they would love to know now. And I think that is the main difference. We try to make these leaps even interactive, because the mental development of babies, of course, is so different than ours, and the perception of their world is so different than ours. And sometimes just seeing the world through someone's eyes makes you understand their behavior better, which is, applicable to everybody, I think. But to understand how your baby perceives the world is so completely different than ours. It's so difficult. So we even made little quizzes or tests or things, exercises you can do just to make sure you understand the way your baby's perceiving the world. And that way, I think we give trust to people so they can really rely on making their own decisions better. If you understand someone, you can make better decisions, right?
So, yes, absolutely. And then, so there's some key differences between this approach and the more traditional approaches of, looking at your baby's stages and development. Can you tell our audience what distinguishes your approach?
Biggest difference is that we look at the mental development. That means the perception of the world and not at what a baby does. To be honest, you just introduced me. You said everything I did. We told you about my choices in life, the way I maybe perceive life, what I do. But no one introduces me. As you know, she walked at the age of 13 months. True, right? But then, the conversations we have, and it's all about that. Isn't that weird? So that is something I'm fighting for. I'm trying to make parents see that actually the only thing that really counts is the mental development. At one point, they'll all crawl or walk or roll over. And you know what? I've had a kid that walked at 9 months, and it's not a walk in the park because they don't perceive things like stairs or height differences. And I've never had so many bruised knees. And with my son, for example, who started walking at 17 months, which is late, they say. But, he just knew how to walk because his mental development was already there. So we're trying to really make people aware of what's going on in a baby's mind. And I think that is the main difference. And that is something we are striving to do. And actually, we're succeeding really well because we are shifting the focus from the physical milestones to that what really matters, the mental development.
And we're going to dive deeper into the mental development. And before doing so, I think it's important for us to know what are the Wonder Weeks. How long are these weeks, and when do they happen?
Okay, so let me start to explain some of the history. Before, we thought that everybody just developed gradually, so you learn a bit more every day. But since a couple of years, and in some cases even decades, we know that almost all organisms do not develop gradually. We develop in leaps, meaning that at one point, something just happens in the brain or in like it's called lower organisms who do not have a brain, but still something happens in which the perception changes, in which some parts of the mental development that are linked to the physical development change. And that gives this whole new world. It's as if you would wake up on a different planet and everything would be completely different. Now that's a leap. That's growing with leaps. So there's this whole new world that you can explore, and you can choose out of what you want to do as a baby. And those are leaps. And that is actually what my parents and their legacy saw in babies. First of all, in chimp babies, when they studied chimp babies with Jane Goodall in Tanzania, so free-living chipmunk babies. And then later on in babies, human babies too. And they saw that, at one point, every parent has to cope with a child that it just isn't themselves, that just like almost goes back in their development instead of forward, who's clingy, who's, not just your fussy behavior. And as a parent, of course, the first thing you want to is something wrong with my baby, or am I doing something wrong? And the fact that we found out, or my parents found out, that it's actually a telltale sign of progress on the way was something that benefited every parent, because you now know that these leaps that start with the first step back before this giant step forward is there, is actually a good sign. As to answer the question, you said, like, how many leaps are there? Well, there are 10 leaps in the first 20 months of life. The question, how long do these leaps last, is a bit more difficult to say, because the first leap could be hours or a day. It could be 3 days. But these last leaps, they're much bigger and they will take weeks. That doesn't mean your baby will have that same fussy behavior the whole day, every day. So it's not like one big dark cloud. But in that period, you'd see your baby much more fussy.
And so it reconceptualizes, or we use a different lens when we think of fussiness, right? I mean, is it still calm down? It's okay, baby. It's okay. We have to make the baby stop fussing, or do we look at this differently?
I hope you'd look at the things differently, because to stop a baby from being fussy, I don't think that would ever be the answer. If you would be crying about something, me telling you, oh, please, I'll put in a trick so you won't be crying anymore, is never the reason, because you want to help someone. So I think that's actually what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to be, parents to be aware of why their baby is fussy and how they can help their baby through the sleep. So if you understand what's going on in their brain, how they are perceiving the world, you can show them around. Just see it as literally as a new whole world opening up. There's two things, and you would be there with me, Dr. Dan, and me. I know this world. Dr. Dan doesn't know the world, and you start to be fussy because everything changes. There's two things I could do. I could just sit down and see how you start to be fussy and let you all by yourself to explore this world, or I could show you around. If I show you around, pretty sure that would be more comforting. Pretty sure it would be good for our bonding. And it's babies are humans. We tend to forget that, and they don't want to be stopped crying. They want to be helped in their pure essence. And I think that's what we give to parents: the fact that they're able to do that, the fact that if they understand that new world that opens up to them, they can almost like a Lonely Planet guide them around this new world, help them through it. And that way the leap will be less, what's it called, bad for the baby. The leap isn't bad, but less difficult for the baby.
Right. Well, and you had mentioned then you brought back the idea of how they're perceiving the world. And so how do parents get into the mind of their mental development, right? What are parents looking for? Because they're just seeing behavior.
They are seeing behavior, but behavior is often a sign of what's really going on. And after our studies, we just found out what kind of things are going on in their brains. And then in some way, although every baby is unique, in some way they all do the same things at the same time. And if you understand what kind of things baby could be interested in, you look at these lists of things that could be interesting to them. You just show them, and you observe your baby, because observation is using your intuition is very key. And you see that some things just really don't interest him or her, and other things might be extremely cool. And don't try to force the things that aren't interested to them. Just try to go along with that natural talent or that natural preference your baby has for the other things. And having a checklist of possible things your baby might be interested in, that helps you a lot. And that's what we found out with the research. These are the possible things your baby might be interested in. And then it's a matter of just, going through them with your baby and trying to see if these are the things, or if it's another category, or if it's another thing. But, just try them all. And I'm sure, and millions of parents are sure, that you'd find them along these lists.
And then related, you talk about the 3 C's. And the 3 C's related to fussiness and the leap. So what are these 3 C's?
So every leap consists of the first, it's not even a phase, the first thing in a leap is the brain change. That just happens. You can't time management, you can't plan it, you can't postpone it. Even when you're ill, it comes. Even in a week in which stressful things might happen in your family, it just happens. That is scary to a baby. So the first phase you actually go into with a baby, which is the second part of leap, is the fussy phase, because everything is new to it. So that will be the phase in which you get fussy behavior, which is 3 C's, just for parents to recognize, which is clinginess. So they'll want to stick onto you literally the whole day. So, and when parents see that their baby is clingy and cranky and crying, the first thing they would think is something wrong with my baby. Is my
Mm-hmm.
baby ill? Or
Mm-hmm.
am I doing things badly? Or am I not good enough? And they're all not true. It's a leap, and that's actually progress. So after this phase of fussy behavior and the three C's, you'd see that suddenly your baby starts to do new things you couldn't do before. And probably you'd see, like in 1 week, you'd see so many new things suddenly happening after this like dark phase of the leap. Suddenly there's a week in which all kinds of wonders occur. Now, that's why we call it the Wonder Weeks.
Mm-hmm. I see the connection there. Okay, so this can be exhausting stuff, as all of us parents know when our kids are young, particularly the ones that tend to have difficulty with sleeping and regulating. So I'm wondering, you write about how all development is unique, right? Every child comes in with this unique profile. What is this continuum from your experience and research on degrees of leaps with fuzziness and then, periods of calm versus the young ones that are just always seemingly needy and cranky and dysregulated and having trouble sleeping?
So there's a big difference between seeing a leap and between seeing a baby that does everything Instagram worthy. Because let me tell you, those babies don't exist.
Yeah.
That is only on our social channels, right?
Right.
As a parent, you would just know if your baby is not themselves. Now you've got temperamental babies, you've got less temperamental babies. We tend to think of the temperamental baby as being a handful, and we seem to think that these very easygoing babies need less attention. Both of them are incorrect. And I would never use the term incorrect because I think everything is up to parents themselves. In this case, I would. Because
Okay.
a temperamental baby is just showing his own unique personality. It doesn't need to be less. I know it can be challenging for parents, but there's also so many positive sides of having a temperamental character of someone. And I'm not saying that there's negative about the other type of character, the more internally oriented people, and we need all of them on our planet, and that's why I'm so striving to get this out. Peaceful babies, they might not cry so much as temperamental babies, but they need us the same amount. Every person on this earth needs other people. Every baby needs their parent. And as a parent, you start to just recognize from day one, well, it may be even in the womb, how your baby is. And you know that, a temperamental baby could be extremely temperamental during a leap. And a very easy baby could maybe even go into a more silent mode during a leap. But as a parent, you would just know something is off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that during the sunny weeks, your baby will sleep 8 hours and the same hours as you, because that just doesn't exist. Every baby has their own regulation, and we should respect it. Every baby has difficulties, and that's a struggle for every parent. But we'll all get through it. But you would just know when your baby is not him or herself. You just
Right.
see it.
Well, I'm sure you get these questions all the time, all over the world, is how do we know when it's a developmental leap? How do we know when something is wrong? Do you have any guiding principles? Is it really just use your instinct? You know when your child is not being themselves for a prolonged period of time?
Yeah, well, there's one thing which is very good about these leaps. They're timed, so you would actually know when a leap will be on its way. So you can actually just check it out in our book or in an app or enroll to our newsletter. And you would just know when a leap will be happening. So we'll tell you around which week, and it will also be plus or minus 1 or 2 weeks depending on the leap. Because it's not like we can tell you on the 26th at 5 o'clock your baby's brain will change. That would be doing magic, and it just doesn't work like that.
No.
Yeah.
So this is a good, a very nice segue into how people can use the book and the app in tandem? How would you recommend people maximize the information and the knowledge?
I think the app was always intended to be at your pocket the whole day because everybody has his phone with it. So if you need to know, get the summary out, need to check it fast, go to your app. If you want to go deeper and have the whole story and have all the explanation, you have all the information you can't read that on your phone. The book is 500 pages. Reading that on your phone will ruin your eyes. And then you go turn to the book in which you can also see all the checklists and what we have and what babies can do. And as where the app is summarized, the book explains it all.
So you have the larger context, the background story, the research and the experience in the text in the book, and then you have at your fingertips. If you are wanting to know, okay, what should my baby be doing now or in this stage? What might I be seeing? It's right there at your fingertips.
Well, yeah, baby. We would never say baby should be doing something because those are actually the words we're trying to find.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
But the rest is true. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, knowing that the clientele that we work with, and I know a large part of our audience tends to parent kids with intensity, kids with sensitivities, as I said, maybe some kids with sleep challenges, with maybe food issues of all ages. And so I have, I guess, a couple parallel questions for you because how do you, when parents are overwhelmed and feel the demands are more than they can cope with, what is your advice to many of us out there having these experiences from time to time?
Well, and they continue after baby times themselves. I have
yes, they do.
Kids, they continue. I think what I've learned, and it sounds like a dull lesson, but honestly, this is one of the best lessons there is. Try to first see what the problem is. If you're dealing with something, try to do this when you're not with your kids. Try to do this when you're alone or talking to someone. Eliminate all the details around it, but try to go to the core and try to make a decision based upon the information you have and that you have been doing your research on in the way that feels good to you. Make this decision with your full heart, and then you cannot go wrong, and trust yourself on that. A perfect parent doesn't exist, and you will make mistakes, and grant yourself these mistakes. You grant yourself the opportunity to be exhausted, because the fact that you are exhausted means you really care and you really try to do everything you can. Pat yourself on the back for that. Being a parent really isn't easy. It's, everybody knows the moment they turn to be a parent, love has this whole new level because you've never loved someone that way. It's much deeper than you could ever love your partner or even yourself. And with this challenge comes and this responsibility of this new love life, love of your life you've created, comes the fact that you don't want to do things wrong. And just tell yourself over and over again, if you make your decision based on information you got and your full heart, you cannot go wrong. And just be less. Everybody's so they want to be perfect, and I get that, but just try to lower the bar for yourself sometime.
So a little self-kindness, a little awareness that this is one of the hardest jobs we will ever have, and all we can do is our best. And I also hear from you is moving away from the chaos when there is a lot of it, so you have a little time to think and problem solve as to what might be going on, and coming up with a solution that you fully embrace and feels right to you.
Because what I've seen in so many parents, and this is non-cultural, this is everywhere. If you make a decision based on information and your full heart, someone can come up to you and tell you the exact same, but the opposite thing, and you could still stick with your decision because you've made it consciously and with your heart, and that helps a lot. It sounds dull, I know, but it really helps.
Well, and also the important point you're making is parents, especially when stressed out and in need, seek expert advice from different consultants. And I've worked with so many parents over the years, and even had my wife and I our own experience with our three, that you're told something to do about your child's problem or behavior, and it immediately, even though it might be a textbook correct answer, it doesn't feel right for you and your child, and you know it. And I think we'll agree to trust that instinct, correct?
Absolutely, 100%. Trust your instinct. If you open up your heart, your instinct is always right. And every expert that tells you how to do something might want to reconsider being an expert. We would never tell someone how to do that. I give people all the information I can share so they can make their own decisions. And that's also something we should teach our children. People should make their own decisions. And yes, sometimes they might not seem to be the best decisions looking back, but those are learning moments. Grant your children these learning moments, grant yourself these learning moments. Life is all about developing. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop until we die.
Exactly. And what you just said is so aligned with Parent Footprint, in the sense that the way for us to raise healthy kids, of course, is for us to engage in healthy behaviors ourselves, and our kids are always watching. So I really like what you just said, which is, we want our kids to be empowered to trust themselves, and we need to do that ourselves and model that for our own kids.
Because we always think, what you teach your children is how to eat with cutlery, how to hold your hand while you're sneezing, or, but these are not the things we're teaching our children. If you would not teach your children how to use cutlery, I'm not saying people shouldn't teach them, let me be clear. But let's say I didn't teach them. The moment they enter puberty and someone starts to love them for not using cutlery, they will instantly turn to cutlery. So these things are learned. But the things you don't mention out loud, the things you do, the way you stand in life, the decisions you make, the way they see you, that is what you're really teaching them.
Yes. Okay, so as an expert on little humans from 0 to 20 months, and as an expert on older humans raising 3 your own, what is one thing, if you could pare down one thing for parents who are listening to take away from this conversation, what would be the one thing that you would be guiding them in?
Shift the focus from the physical milestones to the mental milestones, and that will open up to your child's heart and make your bond much better.
I love it.
Thank you.
As a parent of 3 old adolescents, young adult, you are so right. It doesn't change because what we see is behavior, and we really have to go beyond the behavior to the development to really see what is going on.
Exactly.
Okay, Xaviera, it's time for the question, the Parent Footprint moment question, which I know you've been waiting for. Okay.
I have been waiting for that.
Tell us about a time when you became aware of yourself as an individual or a parent, and that new awareness had a positive impact on your child.
So, I have to go back to that for when I was really young. I think that made the most impact on the way I am still now in my core of my existence. My mom did her PhD when I was, and I can't remember what age exactly, but 4, 5, or 6. And my dad would help out, and we would go to my grandparents, and they would, well, I'm not calling it babysitting because I would be with my grandparents, enjoying life with them. And sometimes I'd go in, and I could feel somehow that my mom was like, "Oh, you're coming in again," but she would always give me pieces of paper, graph paper, and plot things for me, and then I had to draw a line very neatly because she needed that for her book, for her PhD. And I would do that, and I would draw the lines, and I would feel so confident that I just walked in, helped my mom out, and then I started to play again because there's like 10 minutes as a young child, you can draw lines neatly, and you want to do other things again. And feel so proud that, I took care of my mom, I helped her. I liked it when she helped me, so why wouldn't I like it to help her? And I've always had that thought that I helped her out with her PhD until I was in my 30s. I'm not joking here. And someone asked me, like, how can you always be so confident about doing things? And I told them, like, I think that's what I got from my parents because they always believed in me. And they never said it. Oh, they would say it, but words are words and they go in your mind and out your mind. They showed it in everything they did. And I told her, for example, the way, we always talk about our jobs and our lives at the kitchen table. We have dinner all together. We have every meal together and make it a point of talking about our lives then everybody. And I would tell my friend at that moment, for example, when I was that age, I started to make graphs for my mom to help her out. And I was in my 30s and I understood, oh my gosh, it just hit me. That wasn't really the job. And she never published my graphs, of course. She just showed me a big thank you. You helped me out. You did a marvelous job. And the moment I realized that, I started, my mom died already at that time, so I couldn't thank her for that. And I started to really respect the fact that she always showed me with these little things that I was capable of doing everything I wanted to if I would just do my best.
Mm-hmm.
But she would send me back if I did the graphs too quick. She would send them, no, they're not neat enough. You need to really focus on it. So and that moment I realized that those graphs I drew, those can be life lessons for me to tell my kids, show them in these little things that they are worthy, that they have, that they can do things, and that if they do their best, they can actually make a difference in someone's life. And that's a lesson I took just from drawing a graph. And I actually still apply it with all of my kids, although 2 of them still aren't kids anymore. And I think it's actually a lesson we could all, because I've benefited so much from that, always being taken so seriously. If my mom would still be alive, I would have thanked her for that.
Mm-hmm. That is a great parent footprint moment to show kids that they are worthy. And when they believe they are worthy, they can do something well and have an impact on the world.
Yeah, and have impact on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Xaviera, thank you so much for this conversation. I want to quickly highlight a few of your points, and then you're going to tell everyone where to find your book and your app and all of your great information. So everyone, remember, for those of you raising these 0 to 20 weekers, the 3 C's. There's fussiness, clinginess, crankiness, crying. Those are what produce the developmental leaps, and that's when they're going to do new things. Look at it with wonder because something is coming. And I also love the point, shift the focus to the physical, from the physical milestones to the mental milestones. And for all of our listeners who no longer have these infants, this applies to our kids of all ages.
Absolutely.
Okay, Xavier, tell everyone where they can find your stuff.
Well, our books are sold in every normal retail store or in every online retail store. And the apps you can find in either the Play Store or the App Store. And I think there is a Samsung store now too.
And the app?
Yeah, that's the last ones are the App Store and the Play Store and the Samsung store.
Got it. Okay. All right, everyone. This is very easy to find because there are millions of people all over the globe that have been reading the prior editions, over 2 million. And we're thinking we're going to probably have about 5 million with this new edition. And of course, the app is so easy to access.
So many. I'm launching 4 books globally, all today. So there's so much to come.
Well, tell us what's launching.
So I'm launching a big pregnancy book here, which shifts the focus from all the things you can't do to enjoying life and getting to trust your body again, because I think that is key to a good and lovely pregnancy. Because pregnancy should be a golden time instead of, I can't do this time. So shifting the focus there. And then I'm working on, which will be my biggest project ever, focusing on the recovery of moms after the birth. Because what we do, and this is not only Holland, it's not only Germany, it's not only Europe, it's not only America, it's globally. We see if the stitches are done, and if the stitches are done, you're off to go, but you're not off to go. And later on in life, it will produce problems if you don't heal or recover well from your pregnancy, both mentally, sexually, as physically. And I will change the world in shifting to that focus because we women need to know this.
I love it. I'm glad you said this. This is huge. This is so much more than 0 to 20. All right. This is going to changing. This is world changing.
Exactly. And we need to. How can we cope living in a world that is so civilized and leaves women up to almost their own thing and not take care of them? How can we live with this? How can we stand the fact that there's more and more people with postnatal depression, which has a talk about footprint. Postnatal depression makes a huge footprint on a young infant.
Exactly. Okay, everyone. There's far more than the Wonder Weeks. All you ladies out there who are pregnant or have had a child, and actually how. With these new books, where are they applicable? Like, when would it stop? When a mom of a newborn is one age or not a newborn anymore? What would you recommend for this new work?
After 20 months, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, with the people recovering from pregnancy. I don't know if it's recovering, but healing, developing. So mothers who have had babies, how long ago? Because of course you didn't have this out 3 months ago or 2 years ago. What would you recommend for the healing?
For now, I would recommend, because I'm still typing my book, so I'm still actually learning from all kinds of experts. But for now, I would recommend start doing Kegel exercise. You don't know what it is, Google it, do it, and keep on doing it a couple of times per day. It will save your... because we Dutch, we're not subtle, right? It will save you from leaking urine when you're older. Yeah? Do it. Keep on doing it. That is your first physical part. About the mental part, there is a new section in our book about what you can do with anchor moments. And they're not, go meditating for an hour or whatever. They're easy things you can incorporate in your daily life just to make sure you've got these little moments of thinking about yourself too. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your baby.
Exactly.
And I would recommend these things first. And then I can just promise you, Dr. Dan, I will be, there's 2 more days of interviews globally. And then I'll be on that book and I will go day and night because this needs to get out. And I'll talk to you in a year when the book is out.
Let's do that. We'll have another conversation and you'll enlighten us some more.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Dan. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show, the Parent Footprint Podcast with Dr. Dan. Check us out at www.parentfootprint.com. You can also find our Parent Footprint Awareness Training, which is designed to help you be intentional and aware in your parenting journey. As always, be the person you want your child to become, and ask yourself the guiding question I ask myself daily: what footprint do you want to leave?